The world is divided into several realms. Middle-earth, where dragons and humans coexist with various other races. The demonic realm, where demons and beasts live. And the spiritual realm, where souls wander. Among them, our protagonist is a resident of the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm is a place where dead souls linger before they move on to reincarnate. Although there is no concept of residence, our protagonist refers to herself as such, all because she doesn't intend to reincarnate at all. She was the first human to lose her life for the greater good since the start of civilization. It remains unknown why or who she was offered to, as gods do not accept such things. So, there is no way she was offered to them. Back then, even dragons had no interaction with humans, meaning her death was in vain. With this reason, she has been afraid to reincarnate as a human again and has refused ever since. That's what she intended. However, that did not happen. She woke up in a new body that felt heavy. Her eyes were green, her hair was white, and her skin was pale. She wondered what realm she was in, experiencing a strange sensation. He referred to her as their grand masterpiece doll. Before her was a magic circle and a group of men dressed in black robes. The men held their heads in frustration, questioning one another if they had failed again. The cultists' research had been quite expensive. Suddenly, she questioned what they meant by doll. It's then they felt relieved that she spoke. They told her that she would be a tenacious and powerful doll. The mages of their magic tower had devoted their lives to inventing her physical shell. But since it was just a shell, they needed to put a soul inside it. They explained that she could take down a dragon with a snap of her fingers, as their experiments had only succeeded in transferring power so far. She glanced around her surroundings with an uneasy expression. Above her, men imprisoned, their skin breaking apart as if sewn together. The man told her not to worry about them, as she was different from these humans. She wouldn't be able to feel pain like a doll. Her soul was power, and her shell was made sturdy to handle her powers. She questioned if they were telling her to be their guinea pig. They declared that she did not have the right to reject them, as she wouldn't be able to anyway. She stood up, and a powerful aura emerged from her body. The men were shocked. They hadn't transferred her powers yet, so how could this be? A blue aura surrounded her hand, and to their shock, she summoned beasts and even a dragon. Immediately, the men began running away in fear. She explained that this body really did encapsulate her powers. It was a really good body. The leader ordered the mages to get rid of her now. The mages began chanting spells. She touched her dragon, thinking they were all naive. This was why she refused to reincarnate. She ordered her dragon to destroy them all. Upon seeing what was about to happen, the mage's eyes widened in fear. The dragon released a powerful fire that eviscerated the mages who tried to flee. The magic tower quickly became ruins. The protagonist sat on the pile of ruins of the crumbled tower. Though she had destroyed everything, what would she do now? She had nowhere to go. Actually, she could go wherever she wanted, but there was nowhere she desired to travel. She despised living among humans. There was no way they would accept a doll that didn't die or get hurt. She wanted to return to the spiritual realm, but this body didn't expire, so she had no way to go back. It was obvious that once she crushed this body, she would have to remain in that state for eternity because it was a porcelain doll. At that moment, someone commented that she was not human. The man questioned if she was the person who made this place a mess. She looked at the man and asked who he was. He introduced himself as the king of the demonic realm, Demon Lord Cardell. A strong man with horns like a dragon and long dark hair. However, she asked if his grandfather's name was Chester. Great-grandfather? How do you know about my great-grandfather? He asked. She nonchalantly explained that Chester boasted about his grandson in the spiritual realm all the time. She remembered him because he kept calling himself an old man when he was still a young brat. Cardella was taken aback and questioned who she was. She, a bit surprised by his question, explained that she was a soul who got dragged here against her will. She told him she was a test specimen, gesturing to the floating spirits around her. He asked if they were a result of the experiment. She revealed that this was just her power. He commented that she seemed powerful. She revealed that she was powerful to the point of being immortal. Cardell then asked if she desired death. She did, but this doll figure was just too powerful. He then revealed that he had a son, surprising her with this sudden statement. However, he requested that she become his son's butler. She quickly refused. He explained that one of 3 powers possessed by a demon is innate: absorption, seduction, or destruction. His son was born with the power of destruction, but at his age, none of their ancestors had his caliber of power either. She pondered if he was trying to boast about his son. But as expected, Chester's bloodline was not going anywhere. Cardell continued, explaining that once his child was old enough to take over the throne, he would be strong enough to grant her death. She stood up in surprise, exclaiming, "What? I can go back to the spirit realm?" Her eyes glowed with hope as she questioned if he really meant it. He told her that he gave her his word. If she took care of his son until he attained the throne, her wish would be granted. The truth was, she had wandered too long in the spiritual realm. She didn't know how to read papers or documents, and she had no idea what a butler even was. But he told her not to worry, as they had an advisor for that. All she had to do was provide protection and discipline within the castle. In simple terms, he was saying that she didn't need to read complicated documents, and she could deal with the servants however she liked if she got stressed. His child would be her one-way ticket back to the spirit realm. She shook his hand and declared that she would be at his service. He revealed that his son's name was Julian. She commented that it was a pretty name. Suddenly, a red aura emitted from the demon lord, and he commented that this seemed like a fruitful deal. In an instant, they arrived at the Demon King's castle. The castle was huge, spanning acres. In the next scene, Henry questioned what her race was. She told him her race was doll, but he exclaimed that a doll was not a race. However, she retorted that she was a doll, leaving him speechless. As a result, he told her they would go with doll for now. He asked for her full name, but she revealed that she didn't have a name, which shocked him so much that he accidentally marked the paper. He was annoyed and didn't seem to like her very much. Unfortunately, she had long forgotten the name she had as a human. He sighed in exasperation and told her she could go see Julian. He informed her that she was not allowed to use the word awakening, as Julian hadn't awakened in the past 200 years, so he couldn't become a proper adult. Seeing that she was confused, he revealed that demons had to go through 3 phases of awakening. Newborn babies awaken in the first phase and become kids, and when the second phase of awakening takes place, they become adults. When they awaken in the 3rd phase, they are amplified. Normally, this process takes a century to complete, but in the case of elite demons who are too strong, the delay is longer. She was happy, thinking that Julian must be strong enough to end her misery. But the elf told her this was no laughing matter, though it was good news to her. He explained that they had incubus siblings. The head servant's name was Leon and the head maid's name was Leah. He told her to make sure she presented herself well in front of them. She pondered why he was staring at her with such a pitiful expression. Also, she would address Julian as younger master until his 2nd awakening. She must be aware that his mental age was about 5. She questioned if she had to look after him, but the elf revealed that they had a nanny, so she needn't worry. All she had to do was hold her position as butler. Upon meeting the young boy, he questioned who she was. The elf revealed that she was the new butler. Seeing that she was standing, Julian quickly told her to bow before him. She did so immediately and declared that she would be in his care. The elf left, saying he had other matters to attend to. She stared after him, realizing he had already vanished. What was she supposed to do now? Maybe she would figure it out if she played with Julian. It would all be okay as long as he didn't cry. She noticed a leaf in his hair and tried to take it out, but Julian immediately bit her. She wondered if he was a demon or a dog. She tried to shake him off, but his grip was tight. She tore him off and told him she couldn't hear what he was saying if he spoke with his mouth full. She held him into the air and told him to say it again clearly. He explained that he doesn't want her to touch him. She retorted that she didn't touch him. She only touched his clothes. However, he retorted that she touched his head earlier, but he was already biting her before she could get close. She dropped him on the ground. With wide eyes, he stared at her. Seeing this, she commented that he asked her to let him go. He sulked and said she should have slowly put him on the ground. She looked away, thinking that he was dissatisfied despite the fact that she was doing exactly as he asked. She grabbed him again, and he told her to let him go, so she gently placed him on the ground. He questioned what she thought she was doing, and she exclaimed that she was doing as she was told. He lowered his head with a teary expression. Suddenly, she pinched his cheeks, calling him cute, which made him angry. A powerful aura emanated from him, and he exclaimed that he told her not to touch him. She was surprised for a moment as the aura rushed toward her, making her dizzy. Suddenly, her doll head fell to the ground. She quickly picked it up and reattached it to her body, thinking he was too feisty. He questioned what she was, wondering why she wasn't dead. She declared that she was a doll, but he remained confused. She hugged him and told him he was a good boy. He exclaimed that he was a demon, and shouldn't he be bad? As a result, she hugged him tighter, calling him a naughty kid. She also told him to stop unleashing his power because the gardener would cry. He retorted that the gardener wouldn't cry, that adults probably just hide in a corner and cry. She grabbed his cheeks again, pondering if her head would be blown off once more, but thinking it was worth it if she could squeeze his cheeks. In a more subtle and stern tone, he told her not to touch him. She released him and commented that he was very forgetful. He assumed that since her head had fallen off, she must have forgotten. She remarked that maybe she did forget because of the shock of her head hitting the ground. At that moment, a woman ran towards them, questioning who the protagonist was and how she dared to straighten her back in front of the young master. The protagonist looked at her, wondering what was going on. Julian explained that she was his butler. The woman asked why she wasn't informed and who had sent her, accusing the protagonist of attempting to assassinate the young master. The protagonist wondered if the nanny held a high enough position to be informed of the new butler's arrival and thought she should get along with the nanny. However, it was too late as the nanny had already called for the guards. Immediately, a group of monstrous knights surrounded her. She remembered that Cardell had told her to tighten the discipline in the castle, and assumed that meant these knights too. Even if it didn't matter. She summoned her army to attack them. They immediately began cowering and running away. Henry then appeared and demanded to know what they thought they were doing. He ordered them to stop this instant. He told her that, as the butler, she was supposed to manage the personnel who worked in the castle. The nanny, shaking, questioned if she was truly the newly appointed butler. Henry confirmed that she was, indeed, the new butler. The protagonist hoped they could get along. Suddenly, the nanny fainted from the shock. She commented that the knights were too weak, and the elf responded that it was because she was ridiculously strong. Those knights could subjugate a small country in Middle-earth, he explained. She retorted that there was always a comparison between the strong and the weak. He begged her to stop releasing her monsters so carelessly. The knights were valuable resources. He left, exhausted, and she and Julian stared at the nanny who had fainted. Suddenly, the nanny got up and apologized to the protagonist. The protagonist, feeling awkward, told her it was fine. Julian asked if she was a necromancer. She explained that the creatures were not the undead. Curious, Julian attempted to touch one of them. Seeing this, she picked one up and handed it to him, encouraging him to touch it. He commented that it was cold, and she explained that it was because it was a will-o'-the-wisp. He tried to touch it again with a happy face, and she couldn't resist patting him on the head. He was so cute that she did it without thinking. Suddenly, the nanny grabbed her hand, telling Julian that it was time for his nap. Julian ordered the nanny to release the butler, and though she apologized, she continued to hold on. Annoyed, he ordered her again to let the butler go. The protagonist took the opportunity to rub Julian's cheeks, commenting that she just wanted him to know that her hands were intact. The nanny begged her to hurry and let go. Nonchalantly, the butler asked why. Suddenly, she lost her doll arm, and the nanny begged him to calm down. The protagonist commented that Julian had quite the temper for a little guy. She easily reattached her arm, though she accidentally put it on backward, prompting Julian to cut it off again for her. A week passed since the protagonist had begun living with Julian. After 7 days, his average attack frequency per day had reduced from 5 times to only 1 or 2. She reminded him that he wasn't allowed to lose his temper during meals. Did he know how many times she had to fix the walls? He asked what her name was, and she told him she didn't have one. He threatened to end her life if she was lying to him, though that was exactly what she wanted. He asked why butler Henry hadn't given her a name, and she replied that Henry wasn't her parent. Julian then inquired if she had a mommy and daddy. She told him that she used to have parents a long time ago, but didn't mention that they had sold her off. Julian wondered if he should give her a name because he didn't know what to call her. She encouraged him to come up with one. Since her eyes reminded him of Peridot, he decided to call her Perry. She asked if he meant the gem, and he confirmed that her eyes matched the color of Peridot. She had never seen her reflection in a mirror, so he led her to one. She pondered if he didn't mind being touched now, but when he realized he was holding her hand, he quickly withdrew it and told her to hurry up. In Julian's room, he rummaged through a cabinet and found a gem. He told her to look at her reflection in the mirror. Their eyes were the same: pale white skin, wavy silver hair, and yellowish-green eyes. She wondered if they had used actual peridot stones to craft her eyes. She commented that their eyes were the same color, and Julian, with a triumphant look, declared that he had told her so. Looking nervous, he told her to take the gem as he didn't need it, but she declined. He retorted that she should take it when he told her to, then quickly looked away. As she began taking off the gem, he yelled that she shouldn't remove it. A powerful aura filled the room, and she struggled not to laugh, knowing how tedious it would be to pick up and reattach her head again. He asked if she would listen if he said things nicely. She assured him that she would. He then asked why she wouldn't stop touching him, to which she responded that it was because he was too adorable. He retorted that everyone said he was intimidating. She told him that was absurd. She had never seen a child as cute as him. He asked what was so great about being cute, and she explained that it made her want to cling to him and protect him. He boasted that with one snap of his fingers, anyone could be gone. But she responded that she won't die, no matter what. He then asked if that meant she would never leave him, and she assured him that she wouldn't, unless he became the Demon King. He threatened her again, but she found it endearing that he was opening up a death route for her. She even teased that Julian would probably hunt her down if she vanished after he became Demon King. So she tells him as much as he wishes. Julian is frozen in place, and she questions if he wet his pants. He insists that he did not. Later, she notices the nanny pacing back and forth outside Julian's room. Perry asks why she's standing there, and the nanny explains that the young master is still fast asleep, but they need to prepare for his lunch with the Demon King. Suddenly, Perry bursts into his room and pulls the sheets off him, telling him it's time to wake up. She grabs him and he tells her to let go, but he really resembles a dog, or better yet, a puppy since he's still young. She tosses him in the air, and he's stunned when he lands in her arms. She questions if he is fully awake now, and he tells her yes. The nanny brings water for Julian, so Perry quickly takes it to wash his face, but she doesn't do a great job. After she's finished, Julian's face is wet, and he declares that he hates her. She thought she had done a good job helping him wash up, but he keeps screaming. She wonders if this little one might pass out from high blood pressure. She tells him he should scream 3 times a day, and he asks what she's talking about, but she is genuinely concerned about his health and well-being. The nanny requests a moment, explaining that they need to make preparations immediately. It's almost time for lunch with His Majesty. Julian jumps out of bed, and it's adorable. He gets in front of the mirror and starts undressing, but Perry begins helping him, thinking that at this rate, he will be late for lunch. This angers him, and a vein appears on his neck. He tells her to stop touching him, unleashing his power, causing Perry to lose her doll arms. The nanny is shocked. Perry tells him that he should awaken earlier if he doesn't want to be touched so much. He asks if she will stop touching him if he awakens on his own, and she says he's right. She won't touch him if he can take care of himself properly. He lowers his head, blushing slightly, and agrees. The nanny is overwhelmed, covering her mouth and crying. She hugs Perry, exclaiming that she can't believe this day has come. Their young master has finally opened his heart to someone, even though Anna is the seventh nanny. She's so glad Perry is here with them. Julian announces that he didn't open up to Perry and orders the nanny to step away from her. He explains that he hates it when demons who touch him touch other demons. Perry retorts that she isn't a demon, and the nanny is shocked, asking if she's human. Perry clarifies that she's a doll. Later, Julian questions if Perry will die if he does something, but she dodges and assures him that she won't. She tells him to believe her, that she won't die, so he should stop ruining her clothes. Recently, Julian hasn't rejected Perry's touches, but lashes out whenever he finds the opportunity. Even if she doesn't die, he mumbles to himself. Perry tells him to sit on the chair, and she begins combing his hair. The nanny apologizes for letting her do this, considering her status, but Perry reassures her it's fine. Once Perry is done, she tells Julian that he looks splendid. Ever since Perry's arrival as their butler, the nanny feels at ease. In the next scene, Perry is carrying Julian in her arms like a puppy. She asks if he's uncomfortable and if he'd like her to let him go. Remembering what happened last time, he quickly tells her no, he would like to stay as he is, though it's quite embarrassing for him. Everyone is surprised at what they see. The nanny tries to show Perry how to properly carry the young master, but it's a poor example, so Anna looks at a young beast man and shows how Julian should be carried. Perry follows her and she does a good job, realizing that if she picks Julian up on the side, her other arm will be free. However, she has to use both hands to support him, making it quite inconvenient. None of this can be helped, though. She just can't manhandle the young master when his friends are around. She is surprised to hear that he has friends and asks if they are deceased. He tells her that he has friends, but he doesn't like them. She asks why they are friends, and he doesn't know either. He explains that they don't like each other or help each other out. Perry tells him that means they aren't friends. He responds that helped out one of them once and he called him a friend. She explains that he's a pushover then. Julian, confused, asks what a pushover is. Perry continues, explaining that a pushover is an idiot who pours their heart out for someone else. Julian insists that he's not an idiot. The nanny jumps in, saying of course he isn't. He's the brightest and most beloved young master she's ever seen. Perry knows she's lying through her teeth, though. Perry jokes that the nanny will grow a horn on her forehead if she lies. The nanny is shocked, recalling she always had a horn, and insists that it wasn't a lie. Later, Julian happily eats with Perry. The nanny tells Julian that he shouldn't use his hands, but she has a defeated expression. It's not a big deal since he's so cute. Perry feeds him, offering him a bite, but he is shocked and asks if she just gave him broccoli. She notes that he has a sharp sense of taste. Julian throws the broccoli away, saying he doesn't want it. Perry confronts him, warning that he will become a pushover, and fools become pushovers. He'll become a fool if he gets sick from being picky with his food. He calls her a liar and asks what getting sick has to do with being stupid. Perry explains that without enough nutrients, his brain will suffer. The nanny agrees with Perry, lamenting that if Julian doesn't eat, he might grow up to be foolish. Julian orders the servant to bring him more broccoli, but not all of it, just a few pieces. For broccoli are placed on his plate, and he reluctantly eats them. When he finishes, he exclaims that he ate the broccoli. Perry tells him to think of it as medicine to help him grow smarter. After eating, he asks if he's done now. Perry congratulates him, saying he's a smart young master today. Julian asks about tomorrow, and Perry explains that he'll become a smart young master tomorrow if he isn't picky again. He remarks that he was already smart yesterday, but Perry corrects him, pointing out that earlier, he thought a demon who wasn't his friend was his friend. So he wasn't smart yesterday, but if he keeps eating his food, he will be. As a result, Julian decides to eat, and Perry tells him he's doing a great job. She pats his head, and he reminds her not to touch him. He walks away, declaring that he'll go write a letter. Perry wonders if she should call for a painter. In the next scene, Perry contemplates how, despite never learning the alphabet, she can read. She doesn't understand why, but she finds it convenient. When she was alive, it was long before the alphabet even existed, but she suspects that the magic flowing through her doll's body allows her to communicate, read, and write. Julian questions if Perry knows a word that means cutting off someone's essential parts. She responds that it's tearing off limbs. He smiles at this, saying he'll tear off her limbs, then returns to his gloomy expression. She has no idea who he's writing to, but he was raised to be elegant. He hands her the letter, asking if there are any grammatical errors. Anna notes that he wrote about showing someone's fingers to monsters. Anna tries to take the letter from her, explaining that he cannot write such a letter, but Julian insists it's okay since he's sending it to Riff. Anna argues that this is even more reason he shouldn't send it. He can't write such cruel things to a friend. Julian hits the table, declaring that Riff is not his friend. Perry realizes that the fake friend Julian is referring to neither enjoys nor likes his company, and only takes advantage of him. Perry points out that he spelled rip incorrectly. It's rip your hair, not roops your air. She also advises that his threat is too straightforward, and he needs to be more creative. Julian, confused, asks for clarification. Perry goes into detail about how the threat should be written, but the nanny scolds her, saying she should be stopping Julian, not helping him. Julian, unimpressed, simply takes another piece of paper and rewrites the letter. Perry continues teaching him how to write it correctly. The nanny is very disappointed. Now the letter is finished. It's shorter, but it's much more impactful, she mutters. A servant is sent off to deliver the letter, and the nanny cannot believe it was actually sent. Has anyone informed her? She asks. Young Master Ref is a disciple of the Duke. How could she not stop him instead of letting him go? She explains that an impending fight should not be left unresolved or provoked. The nanny exclaims that no one instigated the fight. She questions if their young master wasn't the one who started it. What will happen if Master Riff ends their young master life? He hasn't even reached the final awakening yet. This makes the young master very angry, and he begins releasing his deadly aura. The nanny tries to calm him down, assuring him that she didn't mean that. Perry inquires if young Master Riff has already awakened. The nanny tells her not to mention awakening in front of Julian. Julian overhears and informs them that Riff awakened 100 years ago, so he is already an adult. Perry then asks if Riff is stronger than him, and Julian confidently announces that he is stronger and more powerful than Riff. However, the nanny warns that this isn't something that will end easily. Perry makes it clear that she'll just end Riff's life, which shocks the nanny. Seeing her reaction, Perry questions if the nanny wasn't worried that Riff would end the young master's life. The nanny asks if she knows why the demon lord's son is referred to as young master instead of prince. Perry replies no. Unlike the human realm, the position of demon king is not hereditary. When a stronger demon appears and eliminates the current demon king, that demon becomes the new king. Since the young master hasn't awakened, countless elite nobles are targeting him, believing that as long as he hasn't awakened, he is not as strong as he ought to be. They plan to step over his body before he gains his full power. However, the Demon King is protecting the young master and hires strong people like Miss Perry to look after him. This might present a great opportunity for Perry to eradicate their young master. The nanny reminds Perry that the letter hasn't been delivered yet, so they can still retrieve it. Perry tells her she understands, and the nanny is overjoyed. However, Julian is hurt that the nanny doesn't believe in him. She kneels and promises him that she will always be by his side from now on. She explains that ignoring the fight and treating him like a weakling is what pushovers do, but he is strong, so he should beat them into submission. She vows to always be on the lookout for whatever happens, if he would allow her to. Although it is her job to protect Julian, he despises other demons touching him for reasons unknown. A 5-year-old child like him is already washing up, eating, and sleeping on his own. If it weren't Julian, anyone could brush off her words. Despite being powerful, he doesn't bring any of the existing guards with him, even though it's her duty to protect him. Perhaps the fact that he needs her protection doesn't sit well with him. The reason she had to ask Julian for his permission was for this strong yet fragile little child to trust her. He tells her that since she helped him stop being a fool, he will allow her to protect him. The nanny informs him that she will tell the guards, but Julian immediately stops her. He will only allow Perry to protect him. Does she think I'm weak? He asks. Meanwhile, the Demon King, Cordell, reads the letter his son has written. It's been so long since he's received a letter from his son, but who could believe that it was a threat? The vocabulary is impressive, though a servant informs him that Miss Perry assisted in writing it. He smirks, commenting that he thought Perry was too gullible for such things. He orders them to send the letter as scheduled. However, Henry comments that this will give the Duke an opportunity to go against the young master. Cordell responds that this is only the case if the Duke has time to meddle in a kid's fight. He questions which human country is most feared, deciding on the Sodden Kingdom. They have a strong military and, since their frontier touches the demon realm, they are experts at dealing with demons. He orders Henry to declare war against the Sodden Kingdom. However, rather than barging in without justification, they need to make the kingdom initiate the fight. If the kingdom isn't already dealing with demonkind, they must also have poisons deadly to demons. The Demon King orders Henry to obtain the poison and place it where it looks like the Sodden Kingdom's doing. Additionally, he wants the poison released on the Duke's land, with a third of it becoming contaminated if possible. Henry remarks that if the Duke end up conquering the Sodden Kingdom, it would seem like they're growing too strong. Cordelia comments that they will just have to ensure that neither side wins. He can do much more than just that. He will do anything as long as it means he can protect his son. Later, the nanny shows Perry a game that kids around Julian's age enjoy playing. The nanny had written down the instructions just in case the day would come when she could play with the young master. The nanny comments that she's always been curious about what the young master's happy face looks like, but she can't touch him. She hopes Perry can. As a result, Perry summons her spirit and hands it the list. First on the list is Dungy. She picks him up and begins shaking him vigorously. Anna tells her to stop, asking what she thinks she's doing. She puts him down, wondering if she did it wrong. Anna tells her she's not supposed to shake him like a cocktail. After further explanation, she read the explanation again but believes she's did it correctly. Next is Baby Toss. She begins throwing Julian into the air, which terrifies the nanny. At one point, Julian flies off like he's blasting into the sky. Anna screams for Perry to stop, exclaiming that she's gone overboard. She reminds Perry that Julian is not a ball, but Perry says she only threw him gently. Anna explains that any other child would be crying by now. Julian, however, is upset, his eyes pouting. Anna asks if they should play tag with Perry as the tagger. Perry agrees, and the nanny promises Julian a chocolate cookie if he plays. Julian eagerly agrees, as he seems to love chocolate. He runs away, and Perry, ignited by his enthusiasm, chases after him like a demon. Surprisingly, she gently taps him on the shoulder to tag him. The nanny rushes over, telling Perry that she should have adjusted to the young master's speed to make the game last longer. Perry, realizing this, suggests they play again, but Julian announces that it's no fun. Perry remarks that playing with children is complicated, but Julian bluntly tells her she's just bad at it. The nanny suggests they play hide and seek for the final round. Julian, however, believes Perry will play it in some weird way. The nanny assures him that Perry will be careful this time. They play rock, paper, scissors to decide who will count, and Julian is chosen. He begins counting while Perry looks for a place to hide. She quickly realizes there's nowhere to hide in the garden until she notices a bush. Julian finishes counting and begins looking around. He immediately spots the nanny, who questions how he found her so easily. She was hiding so well. Now they have to find Perry. They search for her together but can't seem to locate her. Suddenly, Julian sees a bit of Perry's hair sticking out from behind a bush. The nanny arrives, asking if he's found her. But when they take a closer look, they find Perry in a very strange position. Both the nanny and Julian are horrified. Later that night, Anna wakes up and gives Perry a piece of her mind. She hands Perry an overwhelming amount of books on parenting and childcare, stating that Perry needs to understand demon culture. Julian asks if Perry is being punished. She puts him to bed, telling him not to worry about the books and that it's time to sleep. However, he can't seem to fall asleep. She asks if he wants a lullaby, and he is surprised that she knows how to sing one. She explains that she'll just make up a melody, but Julian quickly interrupts, turning his head and announcing that he suddenly feels sleepy. Later, in Julian's room, Perry hears his steady breathing as will-o-wisps float around, catching mosquitoes. The gentle breeze from the unclosed window fills the room. It has been a while since the demon castle was enveloped in such peaceful tranquility. Perry takes this moment of leisure to begin reading through the parenting books given to her by Anna. Using her magical abilities, she quickly schemes through them. However, the light from her magic wakes Julian. He asks if she still can't sleep, and she tells him it's midnight, so he should go back to bed. Unfortunately, Julian still can't fall back asleep. Perry suggests reading him a book. He comments that none of the books look interesting but eventually chooses one. The book is titled The Adventure That Awaits the Princess and Knight Every Night. Julian finds the title intriguing, wondering if the princess fights with a sword. Perry begins reading it, but 10 pages in, the typical, obvious fairy tale soon takes a strange turn. In the dead of night, the knight crept into the chamber of the sleeping princess. On a late night, sleep touched the princess's forehead. The princess tangled with the knight, and things happened. She tells him to go to sleep, but he wants to hear more of the story. She tells him the book is not for children, but he insists that he's not a child. Unfortunately, he is still one, as he cried so hard after seeing her. She tells him that she will read him the book once he's grown taller than her. However, he has to awaken to grow taller, he says. The next day, Anna is happily walking along, but Perry is angry as she watches her from behind a door. Perry grabs Anna and questions, "What is this?" Anna comments that it's quite a touching novel, especially the intricate details. Perry questions why she gave her a book with such details. Anna tells her that if she's studying about demons, there's nothing wrong with learning about that part as well. Also, this book is a bestseller in the demon realm. Anna then shows her more books from the same author. Julian, in a drowsy state, recalls that this is the book Perry read to him yesterday. This shocks Anna to the core, freezing her in place. Julian informs her that Perry stopped reading because she said it was not for children, but he's still curious about the nightly adventures. Anna tells him he sleeps at night, so he can't go on his own nightly adventures. Perry sighs and tells her to get rid of the book immediately. Anna takes the stack of books and walks away with them. Perry tells Julian it's time for him to wake up, but he just wants a few more minutes. She lifts him into the air, startling him, but then catches him in her arms with a smile. She asks if he feels more awake. He hugs her out of nowhere, and she concludes that he has gotten used to it. He's not even mad anymore. Julian questions what he has to do to become an adult. Perry isn't sure. He asks why isn't she adult as well. Perry contemplates that when she was alive, she was still a child, and she can't measure her age since she wandered into the spirit realm. It's only been a few months since she transformed into a doll, so she doesn't consider herself an adult. She's only been alive for 2 months. Julian exclaims that she's much younger than him. Perry asks if Julian wants to grow up into an adult. He recalls that earlier, she said the book was for adults. Everyone else but him is a grown-up, and he wants to be one too. Perry explains that even if he became an adult, he wouldn't be able to read that book because it's humiliating, which means embarrassing. Julian comments that he feels humiliated now. All his friends have already grown into adults, and they're embarrassed to hang out with him. Perry wonders if he's talking about the Duke's son. She tells him that being a child is nothing to be embarrassed about. Those friends aren't real friends. She explains that fake friends disappear when you go through hard times, but true friends stay behind. Julian realizes he doesn't have any friends and asks if he's a pushover. Perry reassures him that he's not anymore. He even wrote a letter challenging one of them to a fight. However, he still feels friendless. Perry thinks for a moment and suggests he'll make friends soon if he's a little bit nicer. He protests, saying he is nice, but Perry reminds him that nice demons don't go around ending the lives of whoever they want. Julian is surprised and questions if he's a bad demon, since he doesn't have friends. Perry smiles and agrees, adding that even Ref has friends, which means there must be a good side to Ref too. Julian asks what's good about him. Perry tells him he's cute. He might throw tantrums often, but he's too adorable to get angry with. Plus, he'll be the one to send her back to the spirit world, but she decides she probably shouldn't mention that part. Later, as the sun begins to set, Julian questions where Perry is. Anna explains that she briefly left to answer a call from Sir Henry. For now, Anna can play with him, so he shouldn't worry. Julian turns his head and tells Anna not to bother. Leah tries to reassure him, but Julian glares at her and tells her she doesn't need to. Anna lowers her head, realizing that while Julian has started acting his age since Perry arrived, this was how Master Julian usually behaved. He answered everything with silence, and if anyone tried to touch him, he lashed out with a bad temper. Julian questions if he is cute, startled by the thought. She comments that he is, strangely, incredibly cute. He questions even if he blows up people's vital parts. She covers her mouth as dread washes over her. Julian comments that Perry is strange. When they first met, he cut off her doll's head, but she hardly even spoke. Even when he removed her doll's arms and legs during a screaming tantrum, she calmly asked him to stop, saying it was tedious. He wonders if it's because she's a doll. As a result, he orders Anna to tell him everything she knows about Perry. Unfortunately, Mai doesn't know much, which angers him. He reveals that he knows Anna has been reporting everything to Henry. Anna trembles and sweats profusely. Julian releases his aura, choking her, and orders her to speak. She begs him to put her down, but he comments that she doesn't need her arms or legs to talk. Does she? Terrified, she agrees to tell him everything, with tears running down her face. Anna explains that Perry is a doll made by human sorcerers. She doesn't know how, but Perry has her own will and seems to have made a promise with His Majesty. Seeing that Anna is being honest, Julian drops her to the ground. Anna questions if he is suspicious of her as a butler, but Julian looks away and says no. Anna asks why, and Julian responds that he doesn't know when Perry will leave him. Sometimes Perry has a blank expression, as if she could go somewhere far away at any moment. He wonders if he could fulfill the promise she made with his father. Maybe she would stay by his side. However, there's no way for him to find out what it is. He recalls that Perry said he's cute, so he plans to keep doing things that she likes. If she wants cuteness, he'll be cute. If she wants adorable, he'll act adorable. He orders Anna not to tell Perry about their conversation, saying he'll be nice, starting now. He smiles and reveals that he wants to show Perry what a good boy he can be. Meanwhile, Perry grumbles to herself about Henry asking her to do something so foolish. He could have asked the nanny instead. She knocks on Julian's door, announcing that she's coming in. Julian quickly rushes to greet her with a cute expression. Perry is confused by his sudden happiness and questions if he's really smiling. He tells her yes, and she wonders what's gotten into him. But she has to admit he does look cute. Still, she thinks there must be something seriously wrong with him. He wouldn't act like this if he were healthy. She bursts into Henry's room, declaring that there's a problem. Henry jumps up, asking what it is. Perry explains that something's wrong with Master Julian, but to Henry, Julian seems fine. Perry tells him to look again, and when Henry does, he's so shocked that his glasses break. Henry yells for someone to call His Majesty. However, there was not time, so Henry went to get the Demon King. Suddenly a shattering sound is heard. An assassin is broken through the window. When the Demon King arrives with Henry, they find Perry interrogating an assassin and two others already defeated. 4 assassins entered the castle, but whoever sent them must have been very foolish. The Demon King grabs one of the assassins, but upon examining him, realizes he's poisoned. He pulls out a pill hidden in the assassin's mouth, realizing it's poison, so the assassin won't be able to reveal who sent him. He orders his servants to put the survivors in the underground dungeon and destroy the evidence to prevent repercussions. After the incident, Julian grabs Perry's gown and asks her to hold him, extending his arms. She hesitates, explaining that she's dirty and might have poison on her, but he insists. She carries him and they hug. She asks if he was scared, and he admits he was scared that she might die. He recalls how, during the fight, when the sword was coming at her with full speed, it seemed like she had died right before his eyes. The Demon King, Cordell, comments that Julian is a good-for-nothing son, as if he doesn't even exist. Henry explains that Julian is at the age where he would be missing his mother. Cordell comments that he should have had a daughter instead. Angrily, Julian tells him that Perry isn't his mother. Perry is just his. Everyone, including Perry, is shocked. They look at her, flabbergasted, unable to believe what they just heard. Perry sweats profusely, not wanting them to look at her like that. She insists she didn't do anything to cause this. Julian questions if Perry is his, but Perry clarifies that she belongs to herself. Henry seizes the opportunity to tell Julian that while the butler might not belong to him, he will always be there for him. Even the Demon King says he is there for his son, but Julian reveals that he doesn't want them. He is firm about this. Henry, embarrassed, tries to convince Perry to tell Julian that she belongs to him. That's easy for them to say, but she's not too interested in that. Does she really mean that much to him? He may be over 200 years old, but he's still a child. How is she going to tell him that he has to take her life once he's come of age? Cardell explains that she is his butler, so of course, she is his. Perry wonders who he is to decide who has ownership over her, but Julian is very happy. It's an extremely rare sight to see Julian smiling. Maybe they should make this day a national holiday, which sounds like an excellent idea. However, Perry believes that one day she'll have to firmly tell him that she doesn't belong to him. However, Julian explains that Perry is his, so she can never die. She really should tell him the truth, but she resigns herself and exclaims that he can have her. In the next scene, Henry and Perry are walking down a dark hallway lit by purple flames. They're going to interrogate the assassins they apprehended. This is also part of her duties as they tried to assassinate Master Julian. It was clear that the intruders were after Julian, not her. In fact, they didn't seem to know anything about her. She believes they only tried to get rid of any witnesses. The considerable look of shock on their faces was quite something. Then again, how would they know how to end her life when even she doesn't know how to? Henry tells her to cover her nose for what's going to happen. She tells him that she's fine. However, the room reeks with the smell of rusted metal, blood, and rotting stench invading her nostrils. While she's a doll, the smell isn't appealing or gut-wrenching. She questions if the prisoners are even alive, but Henry reveals that some of them haven't even been touched yet. It's hard to consider them alive. Henry brings her to their cell. They said they were here to assassinate Master Julian, but they still don't know who sent them. He asks Perry if she knows how to torture others. She doesn't, but she'll try starting now. Perry questions if Henry believes in souls. Humans, demons, birds, and trees. All living things have a soul. Normally, it departs naturally when someone dies. The same is true for the souls of the fire goblins she summoned and manifested into reality. So, what do you think happens to living beings that die in resentment? Suddenly, dark, horrifying souls appear before the assassins. They begin crying, begging for someone to help them. These souls belong to those who died at their hands. They look like this because they became evil spirits, but they wouldn't have looked like that when they were alive. Perry vows to make them wish they were dead, and she'll make them pay for trying to end the life of her adorable Master Julian. In the morning, Julian inquires where she has been. She reveals that she's been in the dungeons, and he questions why. She informs him that she was teaching someone manners. Anna questions if the butler had taken someone's life. Perry tells her no, but Layla smells the scent of blood. Perry looks at her hair and wonders if it's that bad. She asks if Julian can wash his face today and eat breakfast, or if she should come after she's changed. However, he tells her no, he will wait. She tells him if he's hungry, he has to eat. She enters the room, and knowing Julian, she knows he's probably waiting for her. That reminds her they've been by each other's side for quite some time now. She ponders if she's gotten attached to him. What would be the point in getting attached to Julian? She'll be leaving for the spirit world once he's grown up after awakening anyway. Suddenly, a blonde-haired man with red eyes whispers, "They finally meet." She questions who he is, and he's surprised that she doesn't know. He grabs her hand, pulls her close, and declares that he knows who she is. She pushes his hand away and asks again, "Who are you?" He activates his power with a red aura surrounding her. With a flick of her hand, it vanishes, and she informs him that they are in the Demon King's castle, so he must not use his powers. He's stunned that she snuffed out his energy with a single wave of her hand. However, she's more concerned about Julian. Is he hungry? He questions if she's okay. Isn't her heart racing? Isn't her body trembling? She tells him not at all. He sighs in momentary defeat and questions if she likes women. Then he lets beautiful woman with blonde hair and red eyes, smiling, join the fun. She tells her she's always in the mood for someone like her. Perry ponders if she should just knock her unconscious, but if he's a noble, that might be a problem. She gets close to her and declares that if she's interested in her, can she call her by her name? She tells her no and decides she will deal with them first and handle the repercussions later. So, she grabs them both by their throats. At that moment, Henry arrives, questioning what she's doing. Perry inquires who these two demons are. Henry tells her to put them down and explain what happened. Moments later, he reveals that the prisoners have confessed. All three of them said the same thing. As for these two who are trembling, their punishment is coming. He slams the boy onto the ground and stomps on his stomach. Henry reveals that they are the chamberlain and headmaid he told her about earlier, Leon and Leah. Perry comments that she's never seen them before. Aren't they supposed to be working? Henry explains that they mostly take care of intruders who break into the castle. She comments that they aren't doing their jobs. Where were they when the assassins broke in? The blonde boy comments that they were doing fine until blue monsters suddenly took them away. Henry tells them not to worry about that and questions what they were doing just now. They comment that the butler is beautiful, and eating human energy every day was boring, so they wanted to have a special meal for once. As a result, Henry begins beating the boy again. As for the person who tried to assassinate Julian, he is the demon Duke Zerka. Henry inquires if Perry knows who Lord Ref is. She remembers that he's the person to whom Julian sent a letter. Henry explains that Ref is the only son of the demon Duke Zerka. She questions if that means the Duke is after Julian, but Henry believes that he doesn't have time for that as residents of his duchy have been dying in droves lately. That means the son was responsible, but there's something strange about this. Maybe he didn't care if they assassinated Julian but knew it would be impossible, so he sent them to scare him. He must be a coward, Perry comments. If he doesn't have the courage to fight, he should have stayed quiet. Perry asks Henry how powerful these two are. Are they strong enough to overpower Lord Ref? Henry doesn't know if they'll be able to overpower him, but based on their combined strength, they would certainly have an advantage. Perry points at them and orders that they be Master Julian's personal guards starting today. She hopes that's all right with Henry, and Henry tells her it doesn't matter, as they don't really need Leon and Leah now that they have her. Upon introducing them to Julian, he questions what these creatures are doing here. She informs him that they'll be accompanying him from now on. He doesn't want them here, but she insists. The two demons comment that he won't even notice they're there. They'll follow him in the shadows. Immediately, they begin disintegrating and blending into the shadows. Perry asks if he is hungry, and he tells her no. However, it's revealed that his stomach has been growling since earlier. She apologizes for asking him to do this when he's hungry, but she wanted to write one letter before they eat. Julian wonders what letter. Perry informs him that Ref sent the assassins. She questions if he doesn't want to beat them to a pulp. That's why they should go teach them a lesson. A bit later, after Julian finishes writing the letter, the blonde-haired guy questions if she's sure they should be writing the letter, as they've been trying to make sure people don't find out about the attack on Master Julian. Inside the letter that she made Julian write, it states that Julian misses his old friend as he's going through hard times, hoping to let them know what he's up to. She knows it would be strange if he didn't respond. The whole point of the letter is to make him notice. Demons undergo a total of 3 awakenings. Baby demons must complete their first awakening to make full use of their demonic powers. After the second awakening, they learn how to use magic, and once the third awakening is complete, they develop a strong body fortified with the use of magic. On average, it takes 100 years for a noble demon child to undergo all 3 awakenings. In relation to their growth in physical strength, the stronger they are, the faster their demonic powers form and advance through the awakening process. In a world where status is determined solely by strength, there's nothing more dangerous than this time period. The only reason Julian has been safe until now is likely because of Cardell's great powers. Anna brings the question. Is she sure this will be all right? She doesn't believe His Majesty will allow it, but Perry comments that if he doesn't, they can just do it today and tell him afterward. Anna remarks that they can't do that, but if they're going, she wants to go too. They ignore her, and Perry orders Leon to go send the letter to Lord Ref. It should take less than 30 minutes if he rides the shadows. However, No matter how Leon wraps his head around it, Julian's threatening letters are just an excuse. Perry glances at Anna and tells her to stay here. After they leave, she must inform Sir Henry of their destination. Cardell can try to stop it if he wants, but since Ref has already started picking on Julian, it's only going to get worse. This is how they'll stop it once and for all. With or without Cardell, they had better realize they will all die if they try to attack Julian. Perry tells Julian one thing: do not use his demonic powers unless she tells him to, even if she's about to die. He tells her yes. She asks, "What if I end up dying?" And Perry responds that she'll protect him. She kneels down and asks if he trusts her. He says he does. Not long after, they arrive at their destination. Leah comments, "Isn't it nice having them around?" But they ignore her. Leon says they've finally arrived. Do they have any idea how long he's been waiting? She gives Leon a gift, but she tells him it's for Rigf. She then tells Leah to get inside Master Julian's shadow. In the next scene, Julian's ex-friend greets him and asks what brings him here. He laughs, commenting that Julian is still a child, then questions if that's his nanny and what number she is. He taunts Julian, wondering if he still eradicates anything that moves. He tells Julian not to lash out at people when he's the one who failed to awaken. Seeing that his words are having an effect, Perry tells Julian to remember what she told him. She informs the ex-friend that she is Julian's butler, not his nanny. He scoffs at how Julian can have a butler when he hasn't even completed his second awakening yet. He can't believe they're doing all this to protect Julian, who's such a troublemaker. He implies that Julian's father must be a demon on the doting side. He asks about what happened to Julian. Perry explains that Julian was attacked, and they don't know who was behind it. That's why they came to ask for help, since he's an old friend of Master Julian's. The ex-friend smirks, asking if Julian called him an old friend. He comments that he doesn't expect Julian to say that, given how he detailed how he would react to hearing his name. He then notices Leon, remarking that Julian came here without even bringing a proper guard. Julian responds that he's strong, and the guy bursts out laughing, spitting out his drink in the process. Perry tells him that since he seemed upset after receiving the letter, she prepared a gift to make him feel better. He asks if she wants him to take it and forget what happened. She informs him that it's something simple and suggests he open it right now. He explains that if he doesn't like it, she'll have to prepare a new gift for him, but Perry is certain he'll like it. Upon opening it, his smile disappears, and he asks what it is. Perry reveals they got it from the gift he sent them earlier. The demon is terrified and begins sweating profusely, but Perry continues that more than half of it has already been used. It's much less than the number he sent them, but she trusts he'll accept it. He throws it away and orders his guards to seize them. Perry orders Leon to lock this place down. Immediately, the doors are closed, and the guards are flabbergasted. Perry hands Julian something to drink, telling him to drink quickly. She informs him that now he can eradicate as many as he likes. Earlier, Perry had noticed a potion and inquired about it. Henry explained that it's a water potion that contains an extract of demonic powers of absorption. They are mostly used by higher-ranking demons to amplify their powers. He had told Perry not to even think about taking it, but that didn't stop her. Julian begins effortlessly destroying his enemies after drinking the potion. Moments later, the Knight of the Demons are all defeated, but for the demon trembling in the corner, surrounded by dark aura, it's a nightmare. He's crying like a baby. Julian suggests they take Ref to the castle. As they walk away, Perry comments that it's too bad the Demon Duke wasn't home today. Leon explains that it was a relief, but Perry retorts that if the Duke were there, he could have used his demonic powers and Master Julian would have been able to awaken sooner. Leah remarks that if the Duke had been there, they wouldn't have been able to do anything. Perry responds that since she was there, it would have been fine. Suddenly, Perry notices a strange aura emanating from Ref. She asks what's wrong with him, and Leon replies that Master Julian didn't end him, so he used a bit of magic. At the castle, Henry questions if she's out of her mind and what she was thinking. She tells him that Julian is fine, just a little dirty. However, Henry notices a stain on Julian's face and panics, calling for a doctor. Julian tells him he's not hurt and the stain on his face is from defeating his enemies. Henry is surprised and doesn't understand what's happening, while Leon pushes the demon toward the castle, calling it a souvenir. Perry thanks Henry for the water potion, and Henry is shocked that she gave it to Julian. She explains that Julian drank it. Henry questions if she even knows what kind of potion it was. The side effects could have stripped Julian of his strength, leaving behind only the powers of absorption. Perry assures him that's not a problem for Julian since his demonic powers are strong. Henry agrees but emphasizes that water potions are dangerous for children. Julian asks if he's in danger, and Henry reassures him that he's going to be fine. Hearing this, Julian smiles, saying there's no problem. Henry stresses that Julian shouldn't just drink anything Perry gives him, as it could put him in real danger. But Julian trusts Perry completely and believes that if it's from her, it's safe. Henry implants a demonic energy source stone inside Ref so they can lock him in the underground dungeon. He tells Perry he needs to know what happened to handle things properly. She mentions that everything Henry has defeated is serious business, but she informs him it's merely children's stuff. Henry questions how this could be a mere children's argument. Henry retorts that they can't waste time on this when they need to deal with more pressing matters. Suddenly, they look at Julian, horrified. Blood gushes from Julian's mouth, and Perry holds him, telling him to look at her. However, Julian's vision blurs, and he can barely see Perry. An aura of energy radiates from him, cutting Henry's cheek in the process. Henry tells her to hold on to him. Suddenly, they arrive outside a cave. Henry instructs her to bring Master Julian over. They place him on a lake. Henry informs Perry that they are at the Lake of Awakening, which means Master Julian has begun his second awakening.